Hi, my name's Malit. I've had a lot of questions about the process I use, wet plate collodion, so I thought I'd make a brief video to show you how to make wet plate. I'm standing in the garden because wet plate has both noxious fumes and needs a tremendous amount of light, so generally in the fair weather I like to do it outside. The family of wet plate collodion encompasses three different techniques. The first, ambrotyping, is wet plate collodion on glass. The second and most common is ferrotyping, which is wet plate collodion on tin or other metal substrate. And the third is actually making a glass negative that's used later on for printing out. In the old days, probably it would have been made into a salt print. And it's only if you practice that last craft that you would have been considered a photographer. Wet plate was invented in 1851 by Frederick Scott Archer. By the 1850s, it had become superior to daguerreotype in several ways. It was faster, it was cheaper, and also, since Dr. Archer did not enforce his patent, it caught on like wildfire. Not unlike the problems we have with our copyright laws now, the daguerreotype patent was impenetrable and made it a tremendously expensive process. Wet plate began to be supplanted by the 1880s for the dry plate process invented by George Eastman, among others, because it was neater, quicker, lighter, and you didn't have to carry your darkroom around. However, a lot was lost. Nonetheless, what I'm going to do now is give you a quick run-through of how to make a tintype. This is not an instructional video, it's merely to illustrate how it's done. Thanks so much, I hope you enjoy this. Hi, we're sitting outside of my outdoor darkroom, which is also known as the garden shed, and I'm going to show you now how to pour a plate. There are a couple of different plate sizes that I use. This is a quarter plate, and I think it's really lovely for portraits. This is called a full plate, and you can see it's 4 times the size of the quarter plate. In the day, this was considered a huge size. Anything larger than this was considered a mammoth plate. The point of pouring is to pour a considerable pool of the collodion in the center, and then to hit the corners, 1, 2, 3, and then pour off here. If you're good at it, you can do it with very little loss of chemistry. In fact, this entire process is quite a conservative one in terms of chemistry, which is nice. I'm going to show you how to pour now. Just a word about this plate. Although they're called tintypes, a lot of contemporary workers use this, which is a coated aluminum. And I think for the traditional workers that makes it no longer perhaps called a tintype or a ferrotype. Nonetheless, it is pretty easy. I would like to someday make my own plates, but right now there are time constraints. So this is a collodion. It has a consistency somewhere between honey and maple syrup. And let's see how we do. There's the central pool. I'm hitting my corners now. And I'm pouring off into the bottle. This final twist is something I learned recently from Bob Szabo in Kansas City. It seems to help with chambered lines, which is a problem in the hot weather especially. And then you let it run off until it just fingerprints in the corner. And then you know you're ready to sensitize the plate. That's all there is to it. Hi, believe it or not, this is my summer darkroom. It's actually the garden shed. Part of the reason this is possible is because collodion has a very low ASA, and it's sensitive to blue and ultraviolet light, which is why I use red light, which you see here is my safe light. Also, some bug lights seem to work. At this point, our plate is still not light sensitive, but once we drop it into this silver bath, it will be. This is a 9% solution of silver nitrate, and I'll set the plate in the bath for approximately 3 minutes. And when it comes out, it will have a sort of milky surface across it, which will be the collodion actually taking up the silver nitrate. Silver nitrate is the basis for much of photography, which is this dipper. And then this goes down. For me, the easiest way to time it is this cute egg timer. This next step, which is developing the plate after it's been exposed, is actually a complete enactment. The light levels that I need at this point are low enough that it's difficult to use the video camera. Nonetheless, the way it's done is this is a ferrous iron developer, and there's a couple different ways to develop. But the thing that's interesting about collodion is that the development for tintype and ambrotype is extremely short. Between 15 and 25 seconds is your best bet. And normally you would pour along the edge, and it's a very small amount of developer. And then you rock it back and forth. A plate this size I can probably do with 20 milliliters. And I forgot to mention this when we were looking at the, again, this is an enactment, when we were looking at the silver bath, but very little chemistry is used, which is one of the very attractive things about these older processes is they weren't particularly wasteful. This silver bath is probably 2 years old, and I just replenish it now and then. And then once the image came up to a place where you liked it, you would wash it off. And after a couple of washings, it then goes into a couple of water baths. At that point, it goes into the fix. That's all there is to it.